We start off with the story of the 32-year-old mechanic Ya Boedi, who's battling for his life at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital a day after he was shot at his workshop at Alajo by a customer. Ya Boedi was rushed to the hospital by his colleagues at about 4:30 Tuesday afternoon after suffering what could have been a fatal gunshot wound to his rib cage. Latif Idris was at the hospital and spoke with an uncle of the victim in the following report.
32-year-old Charles Boedi is currently battling for his life a day after he was shot at a mechanic workshop at Alajo. Now, the family have been here throughout yesterday, throughout the night, and this morning they've persisted being by him to ensure that the 32-year-old survives. Now, information we've gathered indicates that the Deputy Communications Minister, George Anda, has paid a visit to this 32-year-old on 2 occasions, yesterday and today. Now, I would want to find out why the Deputy Minister has taken so much interest in the well-being of the 32-year-old.
We spent the whole night here simply because we cannot leave our kinsman to his fate.
So from yesterday till now, have you seen him?
Oh, okay.
Have you seen him?
Okay.
How would you describe his condition now?
I have personally not set eyes on him since yesterday, but we are told he is responding to treatment.
So we also told the Deputy Communications Minister visited him. Is he related? Are you related to him? Minister?
We do not relate to the Deputy Minister in any way, but he came in to give some monies to the family for the upkeep of our kinsman. He's been very helpful.
The shooter, you mean? But do you know the shooter? Do you know him?
No.
I don't know the shooter. He only came to the shop, and after a brief misunderstanding, he reached for his gun and shot at our kinsman.
So that's you give us your name?
Kofi Anson.
Kofi Anson is an uncle to the 32-year-old who is currently receiving treatment here at the hospital.
Well, the shooter, together with 2 others, are currently in the grips of the police, helping with investigations. Meanwhile, the Small Arms Commission has revealed checks carried out at police stations in the country for individuals acquiring firearms are not rigorous enough. Programs Director at the Commission, John Singer Santichum, disclosed this to Joy News following concerns about indiscriminate shooting in the national capital in recent months, the latest being the Alaha Yard shooting at Alajo on Tuesday.
In terms of screening, yes, because before you acquire the weapon, the law is that you must be somebody of sound mind. And so that's also presupposed that you need to go through certain routine checks by the police in terms of background check, your temperament, everything, before you are given the weapon.
Are these checks done?
They are done. That is when the person has gone through the legal process of acquiring the weapon. What if the person has acquired the weapon illegally? In that case, there is no such criteria for this person because he has just acquired the weapon by whatever means he has acquired it, and he's using it the way he has to use it. But the question you ask go beyond the screening. There is the need for some level of training and education, which currently the law doesn't provide for. And that is where we come in and say, look, we need to review the legislations. The law allows people to acquire weapons, but it doesn't allow them to train on those weapons. So people acquire weapons, and it becomes a danger not just to them, but to other people. Because just acquiring the weapon and the police screening your background and giving you the weapon is not enough. You need to go through a certain regime. Just if I could finish, the individual needs to go through a certain regime that will tell him or her how to use that weapon. As it is now, if I just check your background and you pass per whatever criteria, that you don't have any history of violence, you are not a temperamental person and all that, the police will have no reason to deny you. They will give you the weapon, all right.
How, for instance, are these checks done? What is an average individual taking through before he can illegally acquire a weapon?
I may not be able to tell you everything, because some of those things are also limited to the security, because not everything they want to tell you. And so sometimes they even come to your vicinity where you live. I mean, you wouldn't know that these background checks are done of you. People are questioning about you and then all that before they give you the permits. And so
residents along the route for the proposed Tema-Akosombo rail line have vowed to resist any attempt to destroy their properties to make way for the project. The development of the railway sector was one of the key campaign promises of the governing MPP, but it appears the residents' resistance could prove a challenge. Joining us is Jennifer Kwamwa has more.
This is the Tema-Akosombo rail line stretch. There are many communities along it. They include Sebrepo, Free Zone, and Saki. These communities are densely populated with numerous houses, churches, businesses, schools, and hospitals dotted on the stretch. Jonathan Aja is a businessman who has raised his family at Sebrepo for over 10 years. But their lives and that of their neighbors will change drastically when construction for the proposed Tema-Akosombo railway line begins in October.
We made our way to see the district administration, and they told us that they have no drawings at all about this, which means that they are telling us that no compensation will be paid. For many of us, I'm certain that if they stick within the 50 feet to the left and 50 feet to the right, many people will not be affected. The cry is against the 100 feet and even beyond 150 feet we hear. No one has contacted us.
Well, they've given you a 1-month timeline,
yes,
correct? So is there anything you are doing? Are you taking maybe legal action? Are you going to stage a full stage protest? What are you going to do to protect your homes and your livelihoods?
For many of us, we think we have acquired these lands legally because we have indentures from the chiefs, we have site plans, we are processing our permits. So it's going to be a hard battle. We're not going to sit down for them to believe that there's law in Ghana, we are in a democracy, and we should all respect the law. If they say 50 feet, fine. Those who are within the 50 feet, they have problems. But to go beyond the 50 feet is going to be very fiercely resisted.
First, the demarcation was 50 feet from the rail line. Now they have extended the demarcation to 100 feet. It will destroy people's houses and businesses. As for me, I don't want this kind of project at Bediako.
I'm a retiree, 76 years old. Now I have 30 people living in my house. What I did was I gave 50 feet. And now they are saying 100. That 100, the whole building is going.
But the DCE of Pong Katamanso, Samuel Teteapia, says the residents have nothing to fear.
So we want to sit down as quickly as possible to be able to call for this situation so that we know the legitimate people who we need to assist. I wanted to talk to EDC because there are this affordable housing which is in the home district. If the general people could be assisted, if we pay whatever. If we come into compromise by giving some people reasonable compensation and then they want to settle as quickly as possible, we could go for the housing. And actually, the project is that is 6 months. So within 6 months, they could get some of them to be evacuated to the affordable housing.
That's cold comfort to the residents who have seen the many pillars erected to demarcate where the construction will take place. Now, if all goes according to plan, from October, the Tema-Akosombo railway line will be constructed. And what this means for residents of Saki, Bethlehem, Srebreport, and so many others living along the community is that the bells that toll the arrival of trains could also be the bells that toll the end of the livelihoods and businesses that they've had here for over 5 decades. For Joy News, I'm Jennifer Kwame.
In a related development, the Railways Minister, Joe Gate, has assured that all those who will be affected in the construction of the rail line will be compensated for their loss. He spoke with my colleague Gifty Ando Apia on the Pulse.
There are a number of things that we must consider. Everything that is being done in the interest of Ghanaians as a whole, including those who live by the rail line. The train was introduced. It's not the fullest type that is in Japan, but neither is the slow type that we used to have. It is between. We are traveling above 100 kilometers per hour. I mean, imagine a car traveling over 100 kilometers. That's fast. And so if the unfortunate happens, touch wood, and something happens to the train, you want to have it far enough so that it doesn't affect you. Now, we are taking advice from the safety engineers. We are taking it step by step. We are looking at it, and we shall act in the best interest of the people. What I'll say is that some of the places that we are operating now, some of the places we are going to, the railway already has the right of way to it. Admittedly, the rail, for a long time, the railway was practically dead, and so people thought it's now revived. And so people called trespassers. There are other areas that is greenfield. And a typical example is the Temakusumo line. Up to Shire Hill, railway has land there, because the Temahabo was built on the basis of boulders and so on from Shire Hill south of the Temahabo. And in that time, land was acquired for the railway or the rail line. After Shire Hill, there's no rail line. And so I would not want to engage into any controversy at this time. I will say that we shall act in the best interest of people as immediately as possible. It's a continuous dialogue. And I think that the way to dialogue about these things, with respect to you, is not through the radio, by looking on them by case basis. They're working in the best interest of people. I have no desire to work against anybody or to head against anybody, but I must protect life.
You're watching Joy News Prime. There have been quite a number of exchanges in the NDC, verbal exchanges in the NDC in the last 24 hours. We'll be bringing you all that after this short break. Stay tuned.
Constitution
we standing to criticize. That has always been my philosophy, that anybody should have the freedom to speak his mind. And, people shouldn't just worship people just because they happen to be Mr. A or Mr. B. I mean, I really hate hero worship, particularly when it goes to the extent of ignoring the faults of the person and the mistakes of the person, and then that's, I can't stand that.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, there's been quite a lot that has happened in the last 24 hours in the opposition National Democratic Congress, which does not make the party look that good. Now, several salvos have been fired across, with the party's founder, former President Rawlings, and citizen vigilante Martin Amidu caught somewhere in the crosshairs. Though the former president is yet to react, Mr. Amidu has also hit back in a rather brutal way. The former chief of staff in the erstwhile John Mahama administration is one of those who has launched a tirade in the last 24 hours. And she appears to have drawn some support from former party chairman Dr. Yao Obed Asamoah, who believes the criticisms against the former president are fair. Let's just hear a bit of what Dr. Obed Asamoah has had to say.
Well, these kind of things happen when everybody is in good standing to criticize. That has always been my philosophy, that anybody should have the freedom to speak his mind. And, people shouldn't just worship people just because they happen to be Mr. A or Mr. B. I mean, I really hate hero worship, particularly when it goes to the extent of ignoring the faults of the person and the mistakes of the person, and then that's, I can't stand that.
Then you won't be surprised about the latest article written by Dr. Valerie Sawyer. Her father, I'm sure you served with under Chairman Rawlings. You read her article. What was your reaction?
Well, in fact, I congratulated her. I sent a text message congratulating her for speaking out her mind. I think it's very good for the party and good for the country.
Really?
Yes. People should speak out their minds. They shouldn't be intimidated by anybody or terrorized by anybody. You know, she's spoken her mind, and she's entitled to do so.
This is the founder of the NDC. This is Jerry John Rawlings, somebody that nobody in the party has been able to deal with frontally in the way that Valerie Sawyer did. And you congratulate her?
I dealt with Jerry Rawlings frontally too. You know, so we are in the same boat.
Dr. Obedesamwa had a lot more to say, but I like to recap for you some of the rather interesting developments that have happened in the last 24 hours or so before we bring you that full interview. To do that, I have with me Raymond Akwa. Good evening, Raymond.
Good evening.
All right, so where did all this start?
Okay, so first and foremost, there was this, and Dr. Valerie Sawyer describes it as the twin brother. The president was seen to have gotten good words from former President Rawlings. Then later on, Martin Amidu, in reacting to the chaos surrounding the EC chair, wrote an episode which sought to say that John Dramani Mahama and the NDC put in there an incompetent person, somebody they could manipulate to rig elections. That's what triggered the reaction. Then Dr. Valerie Sawyer.
So this person we were talking about is the Electoral Commission
chairperson. Yes, and the indication then was that she was put there because she was incompetent and could not manage the office, so that she would be manipulated to rig the election. Dr. Valerie Sawyer came in to respond to this particular issue to do with the EC boss and leveled her own allegations, but went for the bigger prize when she decided to tackle former President Rawlings, who up until this particular time, remember, when he went to the June 4th engagement, he said that there cannot be true unity without people seeming to disrespect people like him in the party. But Dr. Valerie Sawyer said he had left the party, even though he pretends he loves the party, and proceeds to say that the love he has for the party is absolute control, that whoever disagrees with him, whoever is not within his tent, is treated differently. And she also made specific allegations that he, as the former president, seemed not to see any wrongdoing with this current government, pretending as if this current government is in opposition, and is rather dealing with the NDC, which is in opposition rather, in a way that people who love their parties don't behave. Then she also leveled some allegations. She moved on to Martin Amidu and said that, well, Martin Amidu really has lost control of what he's supposed to be doing in the party, so Martin Amidu should not pretend that he's still pursuing any fight. Indeed, she made reference to her personal relationship with Martin Amidu and said that, when I told you about your altercation with the former President Mills, indeed, you sought to attack physically. And that was one revelation that came out in that. She said that Martin Amidu wanted to attack physically the former President J.E.A. Mills. The reason why he was voted out as Attorney General, because up until that...
Which is fresh information.
Yes. Up until now, the narrative has been that there was disagreement on whether or not to prosecute Woyome. That's the reason why he was actually booted out. So when she said that, she said she confronted Martin Amidu and asked him to calm down. But Martin Amidu insulted her and said she was a small girl, she didn't know anything. When he was Attorney General, where was she? And all of the difficulties with having to come up with somebody like Martin Amidu engaging you on this matter. So she wrote and virtually attacked those bigger institutions. Then
one of the things she said in there was to suggest or reference, relate former President Rawlings to what? Is it? You said you were flogging a dead horse.
A dead horse. In this particular case, she was talking about, why do you consistently reference the NDC? When indeed there's a new government in place, if you're supposed to be the statesman who will hold governments accountable, if you indeed are with the NDC, you'll be interested in not necessarily flogging this dead horse, that's the NDC, or former President Mahama, many believe may be the reference in this particular case, rather than the person who is now being termed in her own words as a twin brother of the former president, in this case, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is the current president. So she had those words for him. Then she got first response. In fact, Martin Hamidu, just after her statement, there were two people in the party who had written to, one is a former, what they call it, parliamentary aspirant in the Ashanti region. They had actually written a petition. You know, the NDC constitution says that if you have difficulties with anybody who breaches the NDC's rules, you can write a petition for the person to be dealt with. The two had written a petition to the neck of the party for them to deal with Martin Hamidu. Another new thing that had not been done for a very long time, because there have been talks about dealing with him. There have been people who come out to say that Martin Hamidu is virtually acting like he's no longer with our party, but nobody has been bold enough to file a petition. Two people signing it and insisting so. He responded. First, he responded to the petitioners and said there were people who did not have confidence in themselves, and so their petition was useless because he was exercising, one, constitutional mandate to freedom of speech, and also protecting the Ghanaian constitution by exposing rot in this society. That cannot be against the NDC. Okay. And in any case, if it's against the NDC's constitution is inferior to the national constitution, which he moves on to. Then he moves on to Dr. Valerie Soya, and specifically says this is a drunken. No, she said she sounds like a drunken woman who doesn't know what she's talking about. Other words like she's incoherent, she's not, virtually saying she's not intelligent enough. He will not give much credence to that. And he will not be frightened by this kind of attacks from her quarters. And he knows who is sponsoring that. He has to that particular claim. Then the response only for Martin Hamidu goes because it wasn't elaborate enough. Now, the more elaborate response is from one man who was a lady member of Fonka. Remember, friends with Nana Konedo Ajmari Rollins. After that, he didn't join the NDP. He was still in the NDC. Dela Kofi then wrote to respond directly to the claims that Dr. Valerie Soya made. He did something. He took paragraph by paragraph. In his own rendition of what the real facts should be, took on the issues. Some of them are pretty tough words for the lady. For example,
extremely harsh words.
Yes, I mean, so listen to this part. He says that as a true party activist, I feel like chewing you up and spitting you out as you did to Rollins. But then again, I sympathize with you largely on humanitarian grounds. The fact that you are an old maid, listen, the fact that you are an old maid who might be having midlife issues. So he's saying that is the only reason why he's not chewing her up and spitting her out like she did to Jerry Rollins in this case. And continue to say, your continual pissing down the necks of the Rollinses led to you to underestimate the people you so despise. You have also overestimated your intelligence and underestimated your own eccentricities and quote bitchiness. I'm quoting directly from this particular speech. Yes, very harsh words that he actually put there. Now you've been caught up in your own false narrative about the John Dramani Mahama government, and you want to blame Rollins for Mahama's abysmal showing at the polls. Don't forget, this gentleman a few weeks ago wrote on the day that John Dramani Mahama was celebrating his 25th anniversary and renewal of vows, why Mahama should not contest in 2020. That's Dela Kofi. So he actually continued that particular path by saying that she actually has a false narrative on why Mahama lost the, the 2016 election. Okay, so he says that we all knew that the emperor, in this case John Dramani Mahama, had no clothes on. Rollins sounded the alarm bell and admonished her to chart a new course. You and your cohorts berated him for stating the obvious, claiming you could win without him. The scales have now finally fallen off your eyes, and you can now see clearly to the extent of calling Rollins names. Then he proceeded to also make some clear things known. He said, Valerie, you were the policy advisor to President Mahama, right? An ingrate who inherited but never earned the respect that those who came before her struggled to earn. So this is one of the things that you also asked. And proceeded to say, so you are saying John Mahama is happy sitting in the stands and urging Rollins to castigate Akufo-Addo for him? And when did Rollins sign up to you being his backup singer? And why is your boss, John Mahama, mute over the allegations? So he draws a connection between John Dramani Mahama, the former president, and Dr. Valerie Soya, who was the deputy chief of staff then, and says that you are representing him, we know. But why is he mute over these accusations and others? And also makes clear that this is a straight-down fight between those who want to take down the former president, Rollins' house, against those who are currently in the NDC and protecting the heritage of John Dramani Mahama, the former president. So that is how he concludes the write-up on this particular matter, until Dr. Obed Asamoah came in.
Yes, and we have Dr. Obed Asamoah's interview. It's a pretty long interview, and we intend to bring you that one after we bring you the business news. So you have to stay tuned for that, because he had quite a bit to say. Dr. Beda Samoa had quite a bit to say. Emefa Apau had that interview with him, and we'll be bringing you that interview after we bring you the business news. So do stay tuned. This is Joy News Prime.
Hello, welcome to business. We begin with issues with Menzgold Company Limited. Well, the Bank of Ghana says it is investigating the operations of the gold purchasing and trading firm and will take a firm decision soon. The second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, on Tuesday told the Public Accounts Committee that the operation of Menzgold is not approved by the bank and cautioned the public against doing business with the firm. While the central bank has come under criticism recently for not doing enough to protect bank depositors following the DKM scam. Head of Banking Supervision at the central bank, Raymond Amanfo, tells Joy Business they are closely monitoring the operations of Menzgold.
Menzgold issue has been an on and off. They themselves, if I'm in the office, I'll show you. They issued a press release saying that they are to buying gold and that they are not licensed under. They themselves, by their own press statement, says that they are not supposed to be taking deposits. Right. But the question, George, is that if you are buying gold and selling, do you need to go to somebody and say that, well, I sell gold, but if you don't want the gold, you give me your money, I'll use it to buy gold, I'll sell and I'll give you 10% interest on what you give me to buy the gold. You understand? You have agents who are around the traffic lights distributing brochures that say that we deal in gold. We are gold buying entity. We buy, refine, and sell gold. Then you meet me and you said, okay, you say, I'm not interested in buying gold, right? But it's okay. If you don't have, can you invest in gold? Then the question is, what is my return? So if you give me X amount, after buying the gold, right, I will sell and give you a return of 10%.
If you deem that they are breaching the banking law, why don't you step in right now and look within the law and deal with them?
No, the law says that we'll prevent them. What we have done is we have informed the public, we have given them to Yoko. There's an investigation currently going on. Right? That is what the law says. And then when it is established that what we are saying is a fact, because they claim that no, they have not gone there to deposit. They don't have a deposit taking.
So if it's established, then you would act?
Definitely.
Close it down, possibly?
No, when we we'll recommend a closure, either we go to court and enforce a closure.
Well, we are getting a reaction from Menzgold Company Limited. Essentially, they are rejecting claims by the central bank that they accepted deposits from customers. The Menzgold says its operation has been licensed by the Minerals Commission. We can hear now from the marketing manager, Fodio Shadrach, who is urging clients to remain calm.
Per the news of the market, that is on the public domain, we would like to see that it is no different from what we do at Menzgold. We are not a cash depository company, firm, or bank. We are not a financial institution. We are not a microfinance. We are not a savings and loans. We don't do bonds. We don't do shares. We don't do treasuries. We don't do anything related to finance. We are a gold dealership firm.
So how come this is coming up then?
How come this is coming up then? That I think that is a misconception that maybe that is on the market or that is on public domain. And very good thing, one good thing that's
perhaps the way you advertised it?
No, our advert on radio did not tell people to bring cash to our advert. And there is no one that has come to our advert with cash. That is it. And evidence is that anyone can walk into any of our branches to confirm. We do not even accept cards at any of our branches across the nation.
Okay, so how do you think all that has happened is going to have a hit on your business, especially when we are coming out of this DKM scandal? People are a bit scared and worried, if I should say.
Yeah, frankly speaking, it has a negative effect on us. And we are trying as much as possible to convert all negativity into positivity in our own interest. That's what we are doing right now. We are also trying to educate the public, and we are telling and urging our clients to keep calm the outbreak of this news. Okay. And one thing is that verily we have not accepted cash, so we are comfortably doing our business. Business is still ongoing.
All right, so we are waiting the Bank of Ghana's investigations on that. Moving on, the Vice President has charged the Bank of Ghana to bring its expertise to bear to help reduce the cost of credit in the country. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, said this when he inaugurated the 13-member board of the Bank of Ghana.
The board, which is chaired by the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, also has other members like First Deputy Governor, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, and Second Deputy, Dr. Johnson Esiama. Other notable members include Chief Executive of Enterprise Group, Kelly Gajekpo, Deputy Finance Minister Charles Dubuahene, Dr. Ninoy Ashon, businessman investor Jude Buckner, and Madam Comfort Okran of Combat Impressions. Inaugurating the board, Vice President asked the board to ensure the cuts in policy rate is felt on the market.
We expect the decline in the policy rate to also be transmitted to lending rates in the country amongst the banks. We know that there are a lot of elements that go into the price.
Some of the immediate tasks of the board is to deal with the issue of troubled banks and planned recapitalization of commercial banks.
Meanwhile, inflation is still trending downwards. The rate declined to 11.9% in the month of July. It dropped from 12.1% in June, representing a marginal reduction of 0.2 percentage points. This is the lowest recorded since September 2013. Here's government statistician Bawadia.
In July 2017, the year-on-year inflation rate was 11.9% as compared with a rate of 12.1% that was recorded in June 2017. And the monthly change rate in July 2017 was 0.7% as compared with a rate of 0.9% recorded in June 2017. And the year-on-year non-food inflation rate for July 2017 was 14.2% compared with 15.1% that was recorded in June 2017. Then the year-on-year food inflation rate for July 2017 was 7.2% as compared with 6.2% recorded in June 2017. Then the year-on-year non-food inflation rate of 14.2% is about double that of the food inflation rate, which was 7.2% for the month of July 2017. In July 2017, the year-on-year inflation rate for imported items was 2.0 percentage points higher than that of locally produced items. That is 13.2% as against 11.3% for imported and locally produced items.
Now, the rate of corruption in Ghana has the potential of hampering government's resolve to achieve macroeconomic stability. That's the position of stakeholders at the just ended roundtable discussion by Ghana Good Corporate Governance Initiative. Here's Charles Aite's report.
The roundtable saw key industry representatives, including members of the diplomatic corps, engage government on how best to end corruption in Ghana. Former Shraj boss Emil Short made a case for government to open up the selection process for the office of Special Prosecutor to ensure confidence in the office.
My concern is how you ensure that the person who heads the institution is truly independent and is perceived by all and sundry to be independent. And I'm saying that I would have preferred if the position is advertised so that anybody who feels that he or she is competent, has the moral courage, tenacity, and integrity to prosecute anybody who is implicated, any such person can then apply for the position, and you have an independent committee.
Australian High Commissioner to Ghana, Andrew Barnes, tipped joy business of a special initiative by the Australian government to ensure the private sector operates in a conducive business environment.
And that's all in business tonight. The news continues right after this break.
Watching Joy News Prime. Now back to our top story. The former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Obadiah Asamoah, has called for sanctions for citizen vigilante Martin Amido, but says he may not be the only person who deserves to be sanctioned. This follows what many describe as consistent attacks on personalities within the party and the party itself. The cracks within the party seem to have deepened further, with an article written by former Deputy Chief of Staff Dr. Valerie Sawyer partly questioning the integrity and loyalty of founder of the NDC, former President Rawlings, and Mr. Martin Amido. In an exclusive interview with Joy News, Emefa Apau, Dr. Asamoah said he congratulated Dr. Sawyer for her article and proposed sanctions be imposed on citizen vigilante Martin Amido. Emefa first asked Dr. Asamoah whether the NDC is divided.
Well, these kind of things happen when you've suffered the kind of defeat that we suffered, you know, and then there is a scramble for control of the party or for leadership. You're bound to get these divisions, but they can be managed.
How so?
Well, the party has machinery for dealing with this, and Kosibochwe report has suggested means by which, you know, these differences can be dealt with.
Well, you...
Goodwill. If there's goodwill on the part of everybody, I think the divisions can be, you know, papered over.
But is the goodwill there?
Well, it is just the beginning. At the end, when they are faced with the prospect of fighting an election, I think the people will be more reasonable, because, you know, you can't do it alone. You need people to help you to succeed. So I believe that every effort will be made to patch things up.
Should John Mahama be made to lead the NDC once more in 2020?
The decision is for him to make, and it's for the party to decide whom to take. I can't tell you.
With your wealth of experience and knowing the ins and outs of the NDC, with this massive defeat that he suffered, do you think he will be the right man for the party?
It is for the party to decide.
Well, let's talk about the man, Jerry John Rawlings, the person people describe as the founder of the NDC. You worked for him for a long time. You were the longest serving Attorney General and also the longest serving Foreign Affairs Minister under him. You served under Chairman Rawlings. How difficult was it working with him, or how easy was it working for the man, Jerry John Rawlings?
Well, I must say that as far as I was concerned, I didn't have difficulty working with him. We had pretty good relations. Our difficulties arose in relation to the party, not in relation to government. I didn't find it difficult for working with him, because in many ways we shared the same ideals, and we are both forthright people, so we got on pretty well.
So at the party level, what was the difficulty?
The problem arose when he tried to impose President Mills on the party. That's when I felt that other people were also entitled to be considered. And that is when we had our clashes and differences, and of course, you know a lot about it. Yeah.
So were you then surprised when Mills was in power and then we had Mr. Rawlings dealing with him the way he did?
Yes, I was, but you know, in many ways it was quite obvious to me that he wanted Professor Mills because he thought he could control him, you know. But when Professor Mills got the leadership and then won power, he played an independent role. And I think that didn't sit well with him. And that is why they kind of started, you know, attacking him.
And he didn't stay there. It looks like it wasn't just Mr. Mills that, Professor Mills, that Mr. Rawlings criticized. Post Rawlings, no other president has been good enough. you are either corrupt, you are not leading the nation properly. Were you surprised at the way Mr. Rawlings just deals with every president apart from his administration?
Well, it's not surprising. I mean, and it's not just a question of presidents. He deals with everybody that way. Everybody else is is a crook. He is only a saint. That is his attitude, you know. And, well, what can we do about that?
Is Mr. Rawlings a saint?
No, so no human being is a saint, you know. Everybody has his difficulties here and there. But I must say that by and large, he's well above the average in terms of honesty and integrity. At least, you know, he tries to far more than some of the others.
So he was never corrupt? Mr. Rawlings is infallible? Is that what we are saying?
I'm not saying that, but I'm talking in relation to what I know of him. You know, that he believed in what he was saying, you know, about integrity and honesty and accountability and that kind of thing. He seriously believed in them and actually did try to promote them, you know. And in that respect, he probably has done better than the other presidents.
So then he's in good standing to criticize those that he criticizes.
Everybody is in good standing to criticize. That has always been my philosophy, that anybody should have the freedom to speak his mind. And, you know, people shouldn't just worship people just because they happen to be Mr. A or Mr. B. I mean, I really hate hero worship, you know, particularly when it goes to the extent of ignoring the faults of the person and the mistakes of the person, you know. And then I can't stand that.
Then you won't be surprised about the latest article written by Dr. Valerie Sawyer. Her father, I'm sure you served with, under Chairman Rawlings. You read her article. What was your reaction?
Well, in fact, I congratulated her. I sent a text message congratulating her for speaking out her mind. I think it's very good for the party and good for the country.
Really?
Yes. People should speak out their minds. They shouldn't be intimidated by anybody or terrorized by anybody. You know, she's spoken her mind, and she's entitled to do so.
This is the founder of the NDC. This is Jerry John Rawlings, somebody that nobody in the party has been able to deal with frontally in the way that Valerie Sawyer did. And you congratulate her?
I dealt with Jerry Rawlings frontally too. You know, so we are in the same boat.
But I'm sure you read critically some of the things that Dr. Valerie Sawyer said to Mr. Rawlings, buzzing like an agitated mosquito. He doesn't boom. He thinks that Mr. Rawlings believes he's the only saint, the junior Jesus, amongst several others. An article interspersed with sarcasm, and some have described as an insult. And in our Ghanaian culture, they say you can't insult an elder, especially your founding father.
Well, maybe the language may be kind of flowery in places, but the point she's making is that he's attacking everybody, you know, and he falls out with everybody, even including people who have worked closely with him. And that's what she's criticizing. And I think she's got a point there, you know.
So for you, the basis or the main issues that she raises are valid?
Yeah, they to some extent they are valid. Maybe the language in some places may be a little flowery, but she's made very valid points.
But they say it will further deepen the division within the NDC, considering that she might be in the Mahama faction and all that.
People must be used to criticism. That is the whole thing. You see, why should the division be wider or deepened just because somebody has spoken her mind? I really don't understand that. People should be tolerant. We should begin to accept the right of people to express their opinions freely. So I really don't see that what she has said is going to make matters worse than they are already. what we have to do is all of us to develop a good spirit of cooperation and harmony, and then the party goes on.
Well, but do you think that it has become unbecoming of Mr. Rawlings? Some have said that is the case of the Ghanaian proverb that people say that when the frog has had it tie up on Shania or Jiwo, more like if the frog had had enough water, it throws up. So it looks like they've just had it with Mr. Rawlings. Could that be also the case?
Well, I should think a lot of people are not happy about the consistent manner in which he has been criticizing elements within the party. And, you know, even when you have a good case, but it takes a form of a kind of a holier-than-thou attitude, or a form of persecution or vendetta, then, you know, people begin to turn off. The glamour of it wears off. And I think that is what is happening, you know.
So you think it is enough, it's time for Mr. Rawlings to stop? Shouldn't he speak his mind as well?
Speak his mind, but there are, if you belong to a party, the party has a machinery for dealing with grievances, and you should use the machinery.
This is the chairman of the NEC, we say, the National Executive Council. You think that he should go through the processes if you also have issues with elements within the party?
He's not the chairman of the NEC. He's the chairman of the Council of Elders. You know, but everybody within the party is subject to the rules of the party.
Interesting. So we are still speaking to Dr. Obed Yao Asamoah. I think we have to turn on to another interesting, should I say, character within the NDC. Citizen vigilante is what most people call him, Mr. Martin Amidu. He's also served in the capacity that you served, but you served longer than he did as former Attorney General. Mr. Martin Amidu, I'm sure you've been reading articles from him. When you read articles from him, do you get surprised? What comes to mind?
I'm not surprised. I've worked with him, and I know that he's an honest person. And issues of corruption and the rest are things that he would not tolerate. But, you know, you can do things in a way that sometimes then the point that you are making loses its shine. You see, because sometimes his criticisms take on again, the thing I was talking about. I mean, making one feel like you are holier than everybody else. You know, sometimes it looks like you are on a campaign of vengeance, you know, or persecution. You know, once you get that far, then it begins to kind of irritate people.
You know everything that has happened. You know the history behind a lot of things that I'm sure we might not get time to talk about. Do you think Mr. Martin Amidu is a bitter man?
Well, I don't know about some of the things that Valerie talked about that happened between him and Mills, because at that time I was not in the system. So if those things did happen, of course he might be bitter.
And he's expressing it in the things that he writes. You think so?
I think that he would have been expressing his opinions in any case on issues of corruption, irrespective of what happened between him and Mills. But as I say, because of the persistence and the degree of criticism, we get the impression that he has a kind of a cause to fight against certain elements.
I'm sure you've heard about a petition that has been filed as a result. He's written a number of articles, including accusing the NDC of bringing in the EC chair, Madame Charlotte Osei, to rig the 2016 elections, amongst several others. A petition has been filed by two parliamentary candidates, former parliamentary candidates or failed parliamentary candidates of the NDC. They are asking that the disciplinary committee should take an action against him, or maybe remove him from the party or expel him from the NDC. You think that would be the way to go?
Well, I'm not aware of the petition, but if any party member feels that somebody has gone contrary to the rules of the party, they're entitled to use the machinery of the party to deal with that person. But you know, one will have to be fair, because maybe Martin is not the only one who deserves that kind of petition.
Who else might deserve that kind of petition?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Is it Mr. Rawlings?
Your guess is as good as mine.
You think a petition should be filed against Mr. Rawlings as well?
Your guess is as good as mine.
What would be that guess, Mr. Rawlings?
Your guess is as good as mine.
So you think that the founder of the party, a petition should be filed against him as well as is being filed against Mr. Martin Amidu?
Is that there are others who probably have also gone contrary to the rules of the party, and people who want to invoke the procedures of discipline must do that, equally in relation to those other people.
Yeah, former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Yao Obedasama, speaking there with MFA APA. We're taking... Now, President Akufo-Addo says he wants Ghanaians to look up to him as a man of his word and as someone who tells the truth and delivers on his promises. President Akufo-Addo in September 2017 made two important campaign promises in the run-up to the December elections that they're going to be met, adding that this is an indication that the pledges he made during the electioneering period were not mere campaign platform talk, but are pledges that will be fulfilled during his tenure of office. Again, President Akufo-Addo noted that the restoration of the nurses and teacher training allowances have been captured in the budgets, and provisions have been made to take off from the beginning of this academic year. President Akufo-Addo was addressing health workers at the Fiankwanta Hospital Wednesday on the last day of his 3-day working visit to the Western region.
And talking about the teaching facilities reminds me that in this new academic year that is about to begin in September, two very important campaign promises of the new Patriotic Party and myself are going to be met. The first, because of the importance that I place on education in both cases, but the first would be the free senior high school policy. You know how much I have been abused and traduced. I've been vilified. I'm doing it for politics. I'm trying to buy votes. I can't do it. I'm lying to the people of Ghana. By the grace of the Almighty and the energy of the Minister for Education, Matthew Poku Prempe, in September, the free senior high school policy is going to start. Again, we committed ourselves to restoring the nurses and teacher training allowances, because we felt that it was important that the state continues to support the emergence of these very important people in our society, our nurses and teachers. Again, I'm happy to inform you that the budget, the Asempa budget that Oforiatta read in March, has made provision at the beginning of this new academic year, the nurses and teacher training allowances are going to be restored and full. So, I want the people of Ghana to look upon me as a man of my word, of somebody who tells the truth, and what he promises, he delivers. We have to rebuild the health infrastructure of our country.
The Public Accounts Committee is giving the Finance Ministry 2 weeks to explain why it took the Bank of Ghana 26 months to credit the consolidated fund with £3.6 million Men for Poverty Reduction projects in Ghana. At the PAC sitting Wednesday, the Controller and Accountant General Eugene Ofosuhene and Deputy Finance Minister Abna Osayasari provided some circumstances under which the release of the funds were delayed.
You are right. Honorable Chair, I want to give you the exact situation report. Indeed, the MOU, as it were, was entered into somewhere in 2006, and I have a letter from the British High Commission in Accra here to confirm the actual transaction, actual understanding that was entered into at that time. I think we can pass it on to show that indeed these funds were going to come in for poverty reduction strategy programs. So we were expecting this money to come in. Indeed, it didn't happen in 2008. It actually happened, according to the report, 2013, March 19th. That was the time the actual money came in, and it wasn't the whole £6 million as it was agreed in the MOU. It's been rightly stated here, an amount of £3,691,430 pounds 60 British pence. This was the total amount that actually came in on the 19th of March 2013. Inadvertently, these monies or this amount was not credited to consolidated fund, as it were. So it came in somewhere 26 months thereafter, as you rightly said, has been captured by the audit. So it came in 26 months, so 2015, 30th June, that was the time the money actually settled in government accounts. So we were a little bit surprised. Money that we had been told that it had been paid in 2010 actually got credited to government account 26 months after. So we quickly got back to our bankers, that is the central bank, to find out what exactly was the issue.
And then, Mr. Chairman, concerning the Bank of Ghana issue and failure to pay the 3.6 million, the Ministry of Finance will take it up and report accordingly to this committee. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my last question. Well, I wanted to give a directive that we want to get the response within 2 weeks.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
2 weeks.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The Public Accounts Committee also questioned the officials on why some institutions were not on gift myths. In response, they said they would address the challenges as soon as possible. The Volta Regional Medical Store says it may have to shut down due to a massive debt overhang. The store, as at the end of the first half of 2017, was owed as much as 9.3 million cedis by health facilities in the region. Volta Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Joseph Nwete, explains most of the debt is as a result of non-payment of claims by the National Health Insurance Scheme to service providers. He was speaking at the 2017 mid-year review in Ho, from where Fred Kwame sent in this report.
Explaining the debt accrued by the health facilities, the Volta Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Joseph Nwete, said a scheduled delivery system introduced last year, where health facilities are allowed to pay for medical requirements, supply them at a later date, also contributed. He therefore appealed to government to facilitate the process of resourcing the NHIS to enable the scheme pay off its debts.
Last year we introduced what we called scheduled delivery. It means that the people don't have to come to the store for their requirements. They send their requirements by mail, and then we package it and send it to them. And per the system we run, they don't have to pay upfront. We give them the commodity to work with, and then they come and pay. Unfortunately, because the health insurance is delayed in the payment, they are not able to pay for the commodities on time.
Dr. Nwete, however, expressed optimism the review would help identify the challenges hampering healthcare delivery, affecting ratings of the Volta region on the National Health League table.
Every month we have to go, as soon as we hear the health insurance has paid, we have to go back to the medical superintendent and make sure they pay something out of what they owe. But I think that they needed to maybe pay more so that we can gradually recover. And then an appeal. If the health insurance is able, we know government has promised that they were going to look for money to resource the health insurance so that they can pay off all these debts. And that thing should be done quickly because it's seriously affecting health service delivery.
The Volta region within the first half of 2017 saw demarcated CHIPS zones functionality increased by 63.3%, whilst home visits of community health nurses also increased by 98%. Institutional under 5 mortality dropped from 11.1% to 10.2%, with stillbirth also dropping by 0.3%. Institutional maternal mortality also dropped from 172.6 in 100,000 live births in the second quarter of 2016 to 160.9 in same period this year, whilst teenage pregnancy dropped by 0.6%. Meanwhile, systems of health presented some assorted items to the Health Directorate for onward distribution to the 6 preceptor sites in the Volta region aimed at improving reproductive health. Fred Kwame Asari's report for Joy News.
Right, and that's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel. You have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.